Hey guys, I'm Emily from The Blue Mouse, and today I'm going to show you how to pick up stitches to knit your sleeves. So here I've made a drop stitch cardigan, and I've seamed up all the way up the side, and I'm ready to pick up my stitches along the edge and knit a sleeve. So I'll show you how to do that. Alright, so what you're going to need is an edge of your project that you're going to be picking up stitches along. So here I have the opening for my sleeve. I've seamed up all the way up the side of my sweater, leaving a hole for the sleeve here. I've got some yarn. Now I'm using contrasting colors because I want you to be able to see a little bit easier how this works, but you'll want to use the same yarn that you used for your project. You'll need your knitting needles, and I find it's a little bit easier if you have a crochet hook. You don't absolutely have to have one, but if you have one lying around, this is really helpful. So typically you're going to start at the bottom of the arm. So up here is my shoulder seam, and down here is where my mattress seam ended. So I'm going to start at the bottom here, but you can start wherever your pattern tells you to. So what you're going to do is take your yarn and you're going to make a slip knot and leave yourself a tail long enough to weave in later. Pick up your crochet hook and you'll want to find your first stitch. So my pattern says to leave 36 rows from the shoulder seam. So I'm going to count 36 rows or 36 stitches in this column down from the shoulder seam to the bottom here. So now that I have found that stitch, so I'm going to go underneath both bars of that 36th stitch from the top. So remember, a column of knit stitches looks like a column of V's. So you go underneath that stitch. So your pattern will tell you if you're going to go underneath both bars, the outside bar that is closest to your opening, or the inside bar that is closest to the body of your work. So I'm going to go underneath both bars, but this applies if you're going just under one as well. So you take your slip knot, you put it on your crochet hook, and you're going to pull it underneath this stitch here. So pull it underneath and through, and you're just going to place that on your knitting needle. And now you can tighten up that slip knot. And I'm just going to let it rest there for a second. And now we're just going to move up in a clockwise direction, up towards the shoulder seam and then back down on the other side to where you started. And your pattern should tell you how many stitches you need to pick up. So I have 36 possible stitches to pick up, but I'm only going to pick up 24. So my pattern tells me to pick up 2 of every 3 stitches. So that means I pick up 2 stitches, skip 1, and then pick up another 2 stitches and skip 1. And I do that all the way around. But your pattern will tell you if you need to pick up every single stitch or every 4 of 5, every 3 of 4. So basically when it says pick up 2 of 3, that means pick up 2, skip 1, and then continue. If it's 3 of 4, then you pick up 3, skip 1, and keep going in that repeat. And that just applies all the way around. So I move up to my next stitch in my column, and I go underneath both bars, yarn over on my crochet hook, and pull up a loop. And now we slide back my knitting needle, and I slip that without twisting it onto my knitting needle. So I've picked up 2, and my pattern says pick up 2 of 3, so I'm going to skip the next one. So this would be my next one. I'm going to skip it and go 1 above it, go underneath both bars of that edge stitch, yarn over and pull that loop through, and I can just put it on my needle and pull it tight, move 1 stitch up, go underneath both bars, pull a loop through, slide it onto my knitting needle and pull it tight. So I've picked up 2, now I'm going to skip 1 because it's 2 of every 3. So this would be my next one, but I'm going to skip it. So I go to the next one above it, go underneath both bars of that edge stitch, yarn over and pull through, place on your needle and pull tight, go to the next one above it, go underneath both bars and pull through. And you can see that these sets of 2 are pretty evenly spaced, and you can tell where our skipped stitches were. And you're just going to keep doing that all the way around. So I'm going to show you what it looks like when you get to the shoulder seam. Alright, so I have picked up my 24 stitches on my one side. So you can tell that I have to do the other half of the sleeve. So we've come up to our shoulder seam, and since I'm picking up 2 of every 3, I've picked up my 2, and this is where I would skip 1. So I still have 1 stitch before the shoulder seam. So I'm skipping that stitch, and you're just going to pretend that that shoulder seam isn't there. So you just move on to the next easily identifiable edge stitch on the other side of the shoulder seam. So for me, that's this one. So you just bring the yarn over your crochet hook and you pull a loop through, and then you put it on your needle, and then we go one down, place your crochet hook in that stitch below it, underneath both bars, yarn over and pull up a loop, place it on your needle, and we've done the first 2 on the other side of the shoulder seam. So remember, 2 of every 3. So now we're going to skip the next one and move one down and go underneath both bars, yarn over, pull up a loop and place it on your needle, move one down, go underneath both bars, yarn over and pull up a loop, place on your needle, and skip one. So we were going to go into this one, but now we're going to go into the next one below it. And you just keep doing that all the way down to the bottom, right next to where you first started. So here we've reached the end of our sleeve, and you can tell that we've picked up all our stitches around. Now you're going to want to double check that you've picked up the correct amount of stitches. My pattern says to pick up 48, so that's 24 on each side, and I've done that. So now it's time to join in the round and begin knitting. So depending on how your pattern tells you to do this, this is how I like to do it. Because you can get a little bit of a gap here, I like to switch my stitches. So what you do is you take the first stitch on your left hand needle and you slide it purlwise onto your right hand needle, and then you take your last picked up stitch on your right hand needle, which is now the second one, you pick it up and you take it over that other stitch and onto your other needle. So you can see that you've switched them, and now you're ready to begin knitting. So you can place your marker. So now that you've joined in the round, just follow your pattern for the entire sleeve. And if you get a little bit of a gap here, just go ahead and take your string from your slip knot and you can close that up. Or if you haven't woven in all your ends, you can close that gap up nice and tight, and you shouldn't have to worry about it. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope that you found that helpful. This is my favorite method for picking up stitches for sleeves, especially when working a drop stitch sweater or cardigan.